Okay, welcome everyone. As it's wonderful to have everybody on this very fine Wednesday evening. As we're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Zev ben Yehuda Arya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, and also L'Refuah Shalema for Moshe Arya ben Miriam. We're also sponsored this evening Lili Nishmas. What's Cosmo's name?
Meir ben Avram.
Meir ben Avram.
Yes.
Meir ben Avram is Neshama should have an aliyah. And Danny, do you have a yahrzeit? Yeah. Yecheskel ben Yitzchak Aaron on his yahrzeit is Neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. We're sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, L'Refuah Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, by A.B. Spry, for the physical, emotional, and spiritual protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Meir Shein Rivka, by Mark Frankel, Lila Nishmas Yisrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falek, and by Berish Gesem and L'Refuah Shalema for Shoshana Bas Adina Chana. And
gives another name. It's a yahrzeit of a friend, Yisrael ben Zev.
Yisrael ben Zev, the Neshama should have an aliyah. We are holding by O Einoi Ella. That's 2 lines from the top of Nun Beis Amud Aleph. O Einoi Ella, or perhaps it only comes to tell us that Mizbeach Shel Oila Yeheli Yesod. It's coming to tell us that the sprinkling that's done on the Mizbeach of the Oila should be only on a wall, on a corner that has a base, which would preclude the southeastern corner that doesn't have a base. Says the Gemara, well, Miksiv el Yesoid ha'oila. You see, that would be pertinent if we're talking about the carbon oila, because the carbon oila is Shtayim Shein Arba, is on 2 diagonal applications. And there it would be important to say that we don't do one of those 2 diagonal applications on the southeastern corner that doesn't have a base. But it says El Yesod Mizbach Ha'oila. It's talking about the Mizbeach. Now, then it can't be talking about the applications on the Mizbeach because the Chattas is done on all 4 corners. So it can't be that it has to be one that has a Yesod, because it has to be done on all 4 corners. Says the Gemara, Iaviksiv el Yesod ha'oila. If it would say the Yesod ha'oila, Hav amina beskifa el Yesod. I would think that you could spray, when you're spraying below the line, below the red line, you could spray also on the Yesod is an Amma high, you could spray against the vertical wall of the Yesod. Now, you can't do that. When you're doing the main application, you can't do it on the vertical wall of the Yesod. But if it would just say El Yesod ha'oila, I would think that you could do it on the vertical side of the Yesod. Havamina bezekifa el Yesod, and the standing part of the Yesod. Hashta dechsiv el Yesod mizbach ha'oila, you could only do it agagoy the Yesod, because the roof of the Yesod is considered to be like the Mizbeach. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yishmael, Gag Yisoid, Lama Likra. Why would we need a pasuk to tell me that you could put one of the main applications on the roof of the Yisoid? Kal v'chaimu, umash yorei chatas, she'ena mechaperes. Madach, the remnants of the chatas, which is not mechaper, shirayim are not mechaper, tu'una gag Yisoid, it needs to be put on the roof of the Yisoid and not the wall of the Yisoid. Is everything all right? Hello? Tchilas Oila, the first application of the Oila, Shemechaperes, which is Mechaper, that surely must be put on the rooftop of the Yisoid and not on the vertical part of the Yisoid. Eina din she'tu'una gag l'Yisoid. Now, Rabbi Yishmael used the lashon that the Shorei Chatas are not Mechaper. Rabbi Akiva adds an extra language. Rabbi Akiva, Umash Shorei Chatas, the remnants of the Chatas, she'ein Mechaper, it doesn't atone. Ve'ein boin l'chaper, and it doesn't come to atone, which we said sounded like double talk. Tu'una gag Yisoid, you have to put it on the roof of the Yisoid. Tchilas Oila, the initial application, shemechaperes, that's essential. Uva l'chaper, einay din she'tu'una gag Yisoid, it surely needs the rooftop of the Yisoid. Im kain, if that's the case, then why does it say Matal Medloimer El Yisoid Mizbeach Oila? What is that coming to teach us? Tain Yisoid LeMizbeach Shaloila. That comes to tell me that all karbanos, their remnants go to the Yisoid. That all other karbanos, the remnants go to the Yisoid. Now, my benai, it seemed to be that Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yishmael, and Rabbi Akiva are saying the same thing. Rabbi Yishmael just says once that the Shirayim are not Mechaper, and Rabbi Akiva says two languages. It's not Mechaper, and it's not Mechaper, and it's not coming to be Mechaper. Now that's essentially the same thing. What's the difference between them? Amar Rabbi Abba, Adabar Abba, Shirayim Akfim Ikebenai. The difference is if the remnants are essential for the carbon to be finished. Mar Savar Ma'akve, Rabbi Yishmael says it's essential. Or Mar Savar Loi Ma'akve. In other words, even though Rabbi Yishmael says that it's not part of the kapara, but he holds that it's essential. And if the blood spilled, you would have to bring another carbon in order to finish it. In other words, when he says it's not going to be mechaper, it means that it's not part of the kapara process, but it is essential. And Rabbi Akiva says not only doesn't it come to be mechaper, but it's not bon lechaper, meaning that if it spills, you don't have to shecht another animal to do it. Says Gemara, no, that's not the difference between the two. Rav Papa Amar, the Papa Amar, the Kuli Alma Shirayim Ein Ma'akvin. Everybody holds that the remnants are not ma'akiv. If the blood spills, you don't have to shecht another animal. Here we're talking about another interesting, completely different subject. You see, in the Chatas Oif, the sin offering of the bird, there's two parts. You take the bird and you spray it, you wave the bird towards the altar and the blood comes out. After you do that, you press it against the wall, that's called mitzui, and the rest of the blood drains out. The question is mitzui of the chatas ha'oif ma'akiv? As the Gemara tells us, Rapapa Amadikuli Alma Shirayim Ein Ma'akiv. V'hacha b'mitzui es ha'oif, b'mitzui chatas ha'oif ma'akiv kamifli. Here they're arguing about whether the pressing of the chatas ha'oif will disqualify if you don't do it. Ma'ar sava ma'akiv. Rabbi Shmuel says the pressing is ma'akiv, or Ma'ar Savar Loi ma'akiv, and Rabbi Kiva holds it's not ma'akiv. Now, the Gemara interjects over here that there's a raya to Rav Papa, that Rabbi Shmuel also holds that Shirayim are not ma'akiv. Tani Kavasi to Rav Papa. Ve'es kol dam hapar yishpoich. All the blood of the bull of the Kohen should be spilled. Ma'atam loimer hapar. What does it mean? Es kol dam hapar. Limeid al par Yom Kippurim, this teaches us that the par of Yom Kippur, which is offered in the Kodesh Kodashim and against the Paraichas and the Mizbeach Hazav, sheton matan domim liyasayid, that its blood also goes to the base of the outside Mizbeach. Divrei Rebbe. Rabbi Shmuel, so Rabbi Shmuel says, well, I don't need a pasuk for that. It's a kal v'chaymer. Kal v'chaymer. Uma im mi she'ena nichnas tamal lefnim chayva. Madach, Madach, the power of the Kohen Gadol, its blood is not brought into the Kodesh Kodashim. It's only brought against the Paraichas and on the Mizbeach Hazav. So ma'im she'ein nichnas damay lefnim chayva. It's not brought into the Kodesh Kodashim. It needs Yesod, right? It has to be put, its blood has to be put on the base. Mishim nichnas damay lefnim chayva. The blood of Yom Kippur was brought inside the Kodesh Kodashim. Einoi din shetuna Yesod. That's one argument. Rabbi Kiva voices it differently. Rabbi Kiva, Omami she'ein damay nichnas lefnei lefnim. The Kohen Gadol's bull, its blood is not brought into the Kodesh Kodashim. Bein l'chayva, bein l'mitzvah, not obligatory or even in the first instance. Tan Yesod, mi she'nichnas damay chayva lefnei lefnim, the power of Yom Kippurim, whose blood is entered into the Kodesh Kodashim, Eino din shetan Yesod. So now I might think that if you don't put the blood, it'll be ma'akiv. Yachol yakvenu. I might think that it should be ma'akiv. Talmud Leimer, it says in the pasuk, v'chila mikaper es hakodesh. And after you do the 43 applications inside, you finish atoning in the Kodesh. That means that at that point, you finish everything that's essential, and therefore the Yesod that's afterwards is non-essential. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Now, Kal v'chaymer, now we're going to make another Kal v'chaymer. Kal v'chaymer lepar kohen Mashiach, a Kal v'chaymer to the power of the kohen from the Sar Nasi. Now, the Sar of the Nasi is done outside. None of its blood is brought inside at all. So, Kal v'chaymer lepar kohen Mashiach misar Nasi me'ata. Uma mishein nichnas dam lefnim. The dam of the Sar of the Nasi, that's a regular chatas. It's only offered on the four corners on the outside altar. And it's not brought inside. Like chayva v'lay mitzvah, not obligatory, not even for a mitzvah. Tan Yesod. Misha nichnas dam lefnim, bein chayva, bein l'mitzvah, whether obligatory or not, it's obligatory. The Parkei Mashiach has to be brought against the Paraichas and on the Mizbeach Hazav, Einoi din shetan Yesod. Now, Yochel Yakvenu, I might think that if you don't do it, it's ma'akiv. Talmud Leimer, Ves kol dam hapor yishpoich. Now, Ves kol dam hapor yishpoich is said as a disjointed statement after the procedure on the inside. And Nitka Yakosov Laseh, the pasuk removes it as a separate commandment. V'aso Shorei Mitzvah, to make it like the remnants of a mitzvah, to tell me that it's not ma'akiv. Lo yimalach, that Shirayim ain't ma'akiv. So one of the things we've established over here in this whole rigmarole is that Rabbi Yishmael holds that if you don't press after spraying, waving the bird, the chatas oif, and having the blood spray against the wall, you press it. If you don't press it, it's ma'akiv. So says the Gemara, V'savar Rabbi Yishmael mitzri chatas oif ma'akiv. Does Rabbi Yishmael hold that pressing the chatas oif is mandatory, is essential? That which is left over of the blood, you should press. And he's medayik, if there's left over, you press it. If there's not left over, lo yamatza, you don't press it. So that means it's not essential. And you just said Rabbi Yishmael says it is essential. Says the Gemara, Trei Tanoi Alibud Rabbi Yishmael. There's two opinions as to what Rabbi Yishmael's opinion is. Okay, now, as we turn the page already, on what is a very long night tonight, we have a Chumash here, we have a Mishnah Yomis to do, so we have a full schedule tonight. As we welcome in Saba and Yaakov Warman, Nachman Chapler, Eddie Chazan, Shimon Klein, Shalom Fogel, Ruvain Palak, Rabbi Kanil, Berish Gessim, and Yisrael Fisher, Michal, Akta, Dr. Guy, Marshall Kassim, and Barry Cement, Rabbi Kranz, Irving Fishbaum, Mo Kushner, Shelley Zeitlin, Naftali Jablin, Stephen Holtzman, Moshe Lehman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Abe Arbach, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, David Helfgott. And here in the shul, again 9. Hi, Rabbi Isai, we again have 9 here.
Wait a second there.
It's amazing. Come on.
I was counting myself twice, okay.
Anyway, here in the shul we have Gedalia Engel and Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram Chavin, Yehuda Solomon, Danny Vogel, Ruvain Shanit, Rebel Yafi, and Herschel. All of you are with 2 people, so, you know, it's a wonderful crowd. But we need one more, Rabbi. Say one more. Say one more.
Marshall's on his way.
Say Kaddish.
How'd you know?
Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama now tells us, Hai Tana Sover Shirayim Ma'akve. The following Tana holds that the remnants are a essential part, that they invalidate if you don't do the remnants against your side. Which Tana is that? The Tanya, HaKoyen Mechate Osa, the Kohen that daubs the blood of the Chatas on the corners, right? The blood of the Chatas goes on the 4 corners. So, and Osa is a limitation. Osa shenitin damalamala. Remember, the Chatas, its blood has to be above the Chut HaSikra, above the red line, bisecting the height of the altar. It's all the way on the top, on the corners. But we learn a miyat oisa shenitin damalamala, v'loy oisa shenitin damalamata. But not if it's put below the Chut HaSikra. If it's put below the Chut HaSikra, it's not good. Amarta v'chi me'ayin basa. So the Gemara says, why would you think otherwise? I mean, you need a miyah. Why would you think otherwise? Well, Michlal Shenema, because it says V'dam Zvachecha Yeshafech Al Mizbach, since it says the blood of your sacrifice you should pour, Lamadnu linitain b'matan arba. That teaches us that if you, by a chatis, you're supposed to put it on the four corners. She'im nitnun b'matana achas. If you only did one placement, kiper, because it says in one application, v'dam zvachecha yishafech. Even if you pour it once, that tells me that although you're supposed to put it l'chatchila on the four corners of the altar, but if you put it one time, it's good. Now, since it's good one time, so I might think if you put it below instead of above, it's also good. Yachal afan nitan l'mala shenitan l'mata kiper. So the Gemara says, Vidinu, there is a logic. Nemru damim lamala. It says the blood that's supposed to go above, right, above the red line, and v'nemru damim lamata. And it says the blood that goes below the red line, right? For example, by the bird chatas, the blood is supposed to go below the red line. So nemer dam lamala, nemer dam lamata. Ma damim ha'amur lamata. The blood that it says that you should put below. Shenosna lamala. If you put it above the red line. If you put the dam of the chatas above the red line, well, keep air. Af damim ha'amur lamala. The blood that you put above, the blood of the chatas behema, im nasna lamata like keeper. So again, the Gemara wants to say, why do I need this miyat of Isa? So the Gemara says, Loi. If you tell me the lower ones that you put above, you're putting in a place that it never goes. Because the chatasaf that's supposed to go below the red line is never supposed to go above the red line. She'ain saifan lamalon. Therefore, like keeper. Timer be'el yainim, the blood above. She'nisan lamata, you put below. She'yesh me'am karv lamata. There is from it that goes below. Because what happens to the blood that you put above? Eventually, it goes below. It flows below. So therefore, it's okay if it goes below. So the Gemara says, well, damim apnimim yoichichu. The inner blood will disprove that this argument that it eventually goes there is not a good argument. Sheyesh me'em karv b'chutz. There is inner blood that's offered outside. Right, because the shirayim goes outside. And if you put it initially outside, if you put, let's say, the blood of the par of Yom Kippur outside instead of putting it inside, or the par Kay Mashiach, or the par Shel Tzibur, if you put it initially outside and not inside, like Kippur, even though it's eventually going to end up outside. So the Gemara says that's not a good comparison. Like the inner blood. The inner blood is a class in itself. She'ein mizbeach hapnimi memarkan.
Now lower it, please.
She'ein mizbeach hapnimi memarkan. Because the inner altar doesn't finish the process. Now we're going to see that the maskana of the Gemara, what this means, is that it doesn't finish the process because you have to also put it against the paraychas. Timer be'el yainim, ma'ashe'en kain, the upper blood finishes the process because all you have to do is put it on the four corners. Shari krana is mamarkas aisan. And therefore could be it's different than the inner blood. And in the sun on the matter, ksherim. If you put it, instead of doing it above the red line, you put it below, it's kasher. That's why we need the pasuk of Isa. Ta'amalaimer, Isa shenita and daman lamala. Only it that you put its blood above, it's going to be mechaper. But not if you put its blood below. If you put the blood of the chatas behema below, it's not mechaper. So now, remember, we're bringing a raya, this whole lengthy sidetrack was to show that there is an opinion that shirayim is ma'akvim. So the opinion, the proof was, Ma'isha ein mizbeach hapnimi memakrim. What does it mean that the inner karbanis, the mizbeach hapnimi doesn't finish it? Doesn't that mean because you also have to put it, the shirayim outside? Lav elu shirayim. And it means that the shirayim is also an essential part of the procedure. Amalei Rava says, Ihachi, if that's so, then Teisei b'kal v'chaymer. Your law about the outer the chatas blood, that it can't be put below, you should be able to learn from b'kal v'chaymer. Ma shirayim apnimin shesoifan chayva b'chutz. The remnants of the inner blood, that's mandatory on the outside. Osan batchila b'chutz, if you do it initially on the outside, like kippur. Hanitonin lamala, that which you put above. She'ein soifan chayvan lamata, it's not going to be essential below, because the shirayim are not essential for an outer chatas. Va'asan betchila lamata, and you do it below, ain't a din shalai keeper, it surely should not atone, and therefore we wouldn't need the miyad of osa. Rather, says the Gemara, when it says, and this is the way I explained it when I taught it to you, when it says that the mizbeach hapnimi doesn't finish the process, that's because by the par, even the par kayim Mashiach or the par helm davar shel tzibur, you don't only put it on the mizbeach hapnimi, but you also put it against the parayches. Masha ein mizbeach hapnimi mamarkan, it means so masha ein mizbeach hapnimi mamarkan lav she'elu shirai. Excuse me. Says the Gemara, ela ein mizbeach hapnimi mamarkan b'vad ela parayches. The mizbeach hapnimi doesn't finish it off itself because you also have to put it against the parayches. So the bottom line is, rather we know that if you put the blood of the chatas instead of on the four corners, you could do one application. But if you do that application below the chut sikra, it's no good because it says osa, it's a limitation. Lamala, it's mechaper. Below, it's not mechaper. Now, Tanarabanan. Excuse me. Tanarabana, v'chila mikaper, it finishes the atonement. So now it's very interesting that Rabbi Akiva seems to take the pasuk out of its order. V'chila mikaper, im kiper kila. If you do the atonement inside and do the 43 placements with the par, dam of the par, and the dam of the sar, keep kila. If you did the atonement, you finished the mitzvah. Im loy keeper loy kila, right? Because echad mehem ma'akiv. If any one of the 43 placements you didn't do, it's ma'akiv. Div Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Yehuda says, why do you transpose the pasuk? It says im kila keeper. Why do you say im keeper kila? I'm Rabbi Yehuda. No, im kila. If you finish everything, and this means Rabbi Yehuda holds that even you need the shirayim too. Im kila keeper. Im loy kila keeper. If you don't finish, you're not mechaper. Shemechisa achas mikol hamatanis. If you're lacking any one of the placements, lo yasav lo klum. My beinayu. Why does he explain it in Kila if you finish? Rabbi Yechim, Rabbi Shuban Levi, Chad Mashmas Darshanik Benah. There's actually no difference. Just one says if you're finished, you're mechaper, and one says if you're mechaper, you're finished. It's just a different way. It's semantics of how to say the extrapolation. That the one that says, Rabbi Kiva, that says im keeper kila, that means if you do the inner 43, it's mechaper. When he says im kila keeper, Rabbi Yehuda is saying you have to finish it entirely. You have to do the pouring of the remnants at the base. Says the Gemara. Now we said one of the two, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, one of them said Mashma is Darshan Benayu, and one of them says Shirayim Ma'akven Benayu. So the Gemara says Tistayim de Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi who da Amar Shirayim de Ma'akve. That it's Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi who says that one of the opinions, and the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is that Shirayim is Ma'akve. Why? Because we find that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi cites such an opinion. The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, L'divrei ha'omer shirayim ma'akven, according to the opinion that says that the blood that's poured to the base of the outer altar is also essential. If, let's say, they spilled the blood before they poured the remnants, so you shecht another part, but you don't just pour it at the base, because you have to make it a remnant. Rather, you shech the par, you do the last placements on the Mizbeach Hazav, and then you pour the remnants. Maybe par echad, bring another bull, or maskil betchila b'fnim, and you do the last set on the inside against the Mizbeach Hazav, and then you pour it against the base. So since Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that there is an opinion that says Shirayim Ma'akvin, he must be the one that explains Rabbi Yehuda not as Mashmaz Darshani Kebenayu, but that Shirayim Ma'akvin. Says the Gemara, and Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold that there's such an opinion. Atu Rabbi Yochanan Leslei Hasvar, does Rabbi Yochanan not hold that there's an opinion that Shirayim Ma'akvin? V'am Reb Yochanan, Tana Reb Nechemya, Kedivrei Aimer, Shirayim Ma'akvin. So you see that Reb Yochanan also holds it. So it's no raya over here that it's Reb Yeshua ben Levi who says that Reb Yehuda holds Shirayim Ma'akvin, because Reb Yochanan also holds there's an opinion that holds Shirayim Ma'akvin. But we don't know which one it is that says that this is Reb Yehuda's opinion. Ela Kedivrei Ha'aimer, there's one who says it, but v'lav la'ani tanoi, it's not necessarily that that's the explanation between our machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yehuda, whether it's v'chila mekaper or keeper v'chila. Hachanami Kedivrei Ha'aimer, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says there is an opinion this way, but v'lav la'ani tanoi, not necessarily is this the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, another pretty lengthy daf. We're going to have now, Rabbi Isai, the Chumash here, not question time now. We're going to have the Chumash here.
My guest is?
Moshe Friedowitzer?
Correct.
Wow. Shalom Aleichem, Moshe. Wow, you look very young. Unbelievable.
Let's see his picture again. Hi, Maj.
Wow, it's. I was wondering why Ruvain was smiling a little bit more. Moshe, you have a cousin over here. Come and let him see you. Chaim Kramer is at the shir. He's a cousin of yours.